So we recently covered a story around Andre de Ruyter resigning from Eskom in predictable fashion. The scoop is all becoming clear to everybody. So Roman, apparently he's leaving Eskom because running Eskom now is untenable.
Completely and utterly untenable. Just the basic stuff is not getting done, according to Andre de Ruyter. So, for example, they wanted to create a simple barcode system for the hundreds of thousands of spares that Eskom uses annually. Right? And this barcode system would make it nearly impossible to steal those spares and then sell them back to Eskom. The ANC said, nah, not interested, mate. We don't really care. I mean, that example just by itself tells a lot about what went on. That's the smallest example where something very easy could be done to save something, some sort of value. And the ANC are like, nah, we don't really care. So imagine what other examples he would tell. I don't know, maybe an alternative news source, hint, in time to come when they interview him. It's completely untenable because the ANC didn't want to put in the basic systems to help Eskom.
So for those of you who don't recall, Eskom had a board change this year, and the new board, or the new chairperson of the board, the reports now from de Ruyter are that he has refused to basically enable de Ruyter to do his job. He has refused to sign off forms of procurement. He put forward a policy to buy up to 500 megawatts of electricity through independent means. That hasn't been signed off. He put some emergency procurement policies in place to be able to allow the quick fix of some of the damage that's being occurred. That hasn't been signed off. And he's saying that even now they're having meetings behind closed doors where they're discussing things around Eskom. He's the guy who's meant to be leading it. He's giving all the paperwork in to lead it, and it's not being signed. So he's like, well, how do I run a business when, basically everybody's running against me? And I can kind of sympathize with that.
I mean, just think about it. You're the CEO of Eskom, right? And then the Minister of Mineral and Resources, Gwede Mantashe, says you're agitating for the overthrow of the state. The Finance Minister keeps quiet about it. The President keeps quiet about it. Pravin Gordhan keeps quiet about it. No one defends you. That makes your place a little bit untenable. And number two, when you have documents in front of the chairperson to sign off to get more megawatts of power to private producers to stave off load shedding, and they're not signed by the chairperson, I don't know if anyone could actually stay in this job, Byron. I mean, people are calling him weak and a coward for leaving, but what else is there to do?
He's one of the longest serving CEOs at Eskom for a number of years now. Like, you can call him whatever you want, but his family has had to leave the country because they've all been threatened with actual acts of violence. He's been trying to get a corrupt tender of 2.5 billion, which went to ABB. He's been trying to get that canned. As a result of that, he's been saying that the law enforcement officials need to get involved to help secure the money. Nobody does anything with any form of urgency. We've seen certain forms of acquisition of recent. If you may recall, he went out there and asked for people to provide lists of those that had skills and expertise. He's got that list of skills and expertise, which is currently with the chairperson, and he cites Gwede Mantashe as having it, and they've done nothing with it. So he's doing all of the things that he's meant to do. Well, as we all know, Gwede Mantashe went out there and said that, well, he's agitating for the throw of the state. He's virtually a terrorist. He's doing terrorist activities. And obviously he went through to the cabinet and he's like, guys, are you okay with this? And they were all like, hey, don't look at me. So what is he meant to do, man? Like, I'm not sure I would run Eskom in that environment.
No, not in the slightest. And I know a lot of people, especially our people, our audience, might look at him and say, yeah, but he's following the green agenda, which we don't like. We're not a fan of the green agenda whatsoever. But think about it this way, right? And I responded to a comment in this way as well. Every single fossil fuel that comes to Eskom locally is going to be tainted by corruption and BEE. Right, that's why they got rocks instead of coal. Whether it's oil, whether it's gas, whether it's anything to do locally, it can't work. However, if you get lots of money to have the green agenda imposed by Western nations, that money will flow directly to Eskom directly, no middle person involved. Most of it will be spent on the green agenda, which might alleviate some form of load shedding or generation capacity or things like that. So in our view, we don't like the green agenda, but you can hopefully understand why he chose it. Because nuclear is out of the context. We simply just cannot afford it whatsoever, even though I think Russia will be quite amenable to sending us a few modular reactors. So at the end of the day, his only options was the green agenda, and that's what he tried to pursue. But even that now looks like it's under threat because he's the one that shook hands to get that $8.5 billion. Now that he's no longer there, I doubt it will be coming.
And before we dive in more around what's been going on at Eskom, a word from our sponsor, us.
That's right. We have created a brand new insurance brokerage called, funny enough, Morning Shot Insurance Brokers. So if you're interested in saving money on insurance, number one, but most importantly, having a Zoom with me and my wonderful face, why not send me your insurance schedule to ramon@morningshot.co.za? Let's chat. Maybe we can help each other save money and deliver superior service, because that's what we're all about here at Morning Shot.
So, I mean, if you look at it, we all say, well, there's corruption at Eskom, and lots of people are like, what's that actually look like? I mean, they know corruption. They just think, well, people send out blank checks, right? But I mean, they don't actually realize how sophisticated some of the corruption is. So a good example is that what they typically tend to do is they will steal parts out of Eskom. Now, Eskom needs those parts, and lo and behold, would you know, the guy down the road has the parts that you need, right? So they sell the parts that they stole straight back to Eskom. Well, there you go. The other thing is, I'm sure you guys have all heard, everybody who watches our audience would have heard about the damage that occurs to Eskom's infrastructure. You might be like, well, why do they do that? I mean, that's deliberate, right? Yeah, it is deliberate, because the very same people who set fire to the infrastructure are the people their employees come repair it. So this type of stuff is now epidemic. It's now going right through Eskom, and it's making running Eskom almost a daily nightmare. And these are the type of things that the Ruyters had to combat. The problem is every time he points them out, he's like, well, that guy's stealing and selling stuff back. That guy's damaging infrastructure, and he's coming to repair it. What do the powers that be do? Well, nothing. Because they want it to occur. Because as we know, Eskom's a giant route to fund the patronage network. And those very members are part of the patronage network. So that's kind of what he's having to deal with. And you can see he's getting to a point now where it's like, there's no money. He can't afford diesel. There's no diesel left to buy. He's not getting the money in. He's not getting the support to prosecute. There's things that he can do in order to try to alleviate. Nobody's signing the paperwork. He's got the engineers. I mean, lots of people responded to our video and said, yeah, but why didn't he employ the engineers then if he should have just let engineers to run Eskom? He's got the list of all the people, but he can't do all of the recruitment. The people that can sign it off aren't signing it off. They've got the paperwork, but they just don't want to get them involved. Eskom's really just a dying ship, man. Like it's just going nowhere.
It is going nowhere. And 2024 is coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We will see what Eskom does during that period of time. I think stage 4 or stage 6 load shedding is going to be just commonplace. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. There's no intention for it to go away because people are eating at the trough. And the reason why you don't have any electricity is because people's greed is far more important to them than your well-being and your general human rights. So there you go. Welcome to South Africa in 2022.
As a country's finances constrict, it's going to become harder for them to steal what isn't there to be stolen. They forget how hard it was to find the Ruyter in the first place. He had 27 black business chambers who were against the Ruyter from day one for no other reason than he was a whitey. What makes you think is going to be any different? And the answer is it's not. So what's going to end up happening is they're going to be coming to Praveen more and more and more for more handouts that don't exist. There is no money. What do I think will happen in the next 12 months? One word: power ships. It's actually 2 words, but in the NZ language it's one.